Japan was universally condemned.
I call on His Excellency Mr. Matsuoka, delegate of Japan.
Mr. President and gentlemen, it is a matter of common knowledge that Japan's policy is fundamentally inspired by a genuine desire to guarantee peace in the Far East and to contribute to the maintenance of peace throughout the world. Japan, however, finds it impossible to accept the report adopted by the Assembly.
The Japanese then just walked out, and the League suddenly realized there was nothing it could do about Manchuria.
それは閣内で最も強く対ソ攻撃を主張し続けていた松岡外相を退陣させるためのものでした。
By the end of October 1941, Hitler's army was closing in on Moscow. Stalin's defenses were further weakened by fear of a Japanese strike in Siberia. Army divisions badly needed to defend Moscow were tied down in the Far East to face a possible Japanese attack. The Japanese were still contemplating where to strike next, at the Soviets in Siberia or at the British and Americans in Southeast Asia. The key Soviet spy in Japan, Richard Zorge, had many agents and friends close to the Japanese government. For months he'd been trying to convince them that the Japanese would be much better off getting hold of the precious resources of tin, rubber, and oil in Southeast Asia, rather than face a difficult winter campaign in Siberia. In time, Zorge learned that Japan had abandoned all plans to attack the Soviet Union. This was the news Stalin had been waiting for. Having correctly predicted the German invasion, Zorge had the ear of Moscow.
Yosuke Matsuoka, Foreign Minister of Japan, the Second Konoe Cabinet, the 22nd of July 1940, the 18th of July 1941. On second thought, Foreign Minister Matsuoka claims strongly, Japan should go back to the starting point. Japan should face the northern side. Japan should fight with the Soviet Union. After the Red Russian Revolution in 1917, some Japanese continued to regard Russia as the top priority threat. Some Japanese regarded the new Russia, the Soviet communism, as a friend with Japan. On the 22nd of June 1941, Germany invaded the Soviet Union, and once again Japan was caught completely by surprise. Hurried conferences took place at the highest levels. The question was whether this represented an opportunity for Japan. In the end, the formal leadership group, called as the Imperial Headquarters Cabinet Liaison Conference, agreed on the Southern strategy. It also agreed that German progress should be closely monitored. Matsuoka informed the Soviet ambassador that the Axis Agreement took precedence over the Japan-Soviet Neutrality Pact. On the 18th of July 1941, Konoe resigned and formed a new government quickly, without Matsuoka as foreign minister. The Second Konoe Cabinet with Matsuoka, the 22nd of July 1940. The 18th of July 1941. The Third Konoe Cabinet without Matsuoka, the 18th of July 1941. The 18th of October 1941. The new foreign minister assured the Soviet ambassador that Japan would honor the neutrality agreement, even though Germany was urging its Japanese ally to attack the Russians from the east. On the 28th of July 1941, Japanese forces occupied peacefully all of French Indochina and Southeast Asia, supported by Vichy regime in France, July 1940, September 1944. Under the of Marshal Philippe Pétain from the Nazi Germany, Roosevelt immediately froze Japanese assets in the United States. Roosevelt also placed an embargo on oil exports to Japan.
Osaki. Mr. Osaki, allow me to introduce Dr. Richard Zorge of the Frankfurter Zeitung.
Matsumi Ozaki, the Asahi newspaper. Matsumi Ozaki, the Asahi newspaper.
Richard Zorge. Glad to meet you.
Mr. Osaki has better insight into the conflict with China than Konoe.
It was decided at the Imperial Conference, negotiations with the United States will continue until the end of October.
Really?
Winter is near. Remember what happened to Napoleon.
Japan won't invade Siberia.
The Soviet Union is safe for now.
Getting this message delivered will be Ramsey's biggest mission now. Then our duty will be over. I can finally go home.
To Moscow or Berlin?
So what will happen if no agreement can be reached with America before the end of October?
Japan will go to war.
Do they really think they can take on America and win? Doesn't it bother anyone that all these nice people will be sent off to die?
The Japanese must survive this storm. We must learn, or there's no future for us. I'll bear the burdens of war along with my people.
On November 7th, 1941, on the 24th anniversary of the Bolshevik Revolution, the fresh Russian troops from Siberia paraded through Moscow. Straight from the parade, they marched to the front line, a mere 40 kilometers from Red Square. Outside Moscow, the German advance ground to a halt. It was their first defeat in the Second World War.